Let's get some reaction from energy analyst Ted Blom regarding this that was taking place, this briefing, this Eskom briefing that was taking place. Ted, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Of course, let's start with this. Stage 2 and 3 load shedding to be expected for South Africans over the next 2 years. A step in the right direction here for Eskom, and at least, South Africans will know when to plan whatever they need to plan and know what schedules they will be on. But of course, this doesn't rule out the fact that higher stages of load shedding could be implemented at any time.
Yes, sure. I mean, that's one way of looking at it, and that's probably the positive spin on it. The bottom line is that it's still very, very disruptive, and it will still cost the economy billions of rands a month in lost production, or as they call it, the cost of unserved energy. And secondly, I mean, what's really concerning to me is that Eskom's now managed to access the 50 million litres of diesel, but the cost is terrible. The cost they are paying is 30 rand a litre. That's going to cost them 1.5 billion rand. So 30 rand a litre is double the wholesale price. So somebody's milking Eskom. It's another scam where we, the consumer, are just being fleeced via Eskom, the Eskom corruption scandals.
Now, let's talk about the municipal debt. That's also a major challenge for Eskom, and they did address this in the briefing as well.
No, absolutely. And that debt is climbing, and it's climbing faster. The problem with the debt is that, and to be basic, is that the tariff has increased 900% since 2008. Inflation rate has increased by 100% since 2008. So consumers are 800% out of pocket if they had received inflation-based salary increases. And hence it's unaffordable. And that's why Eskom can't collect debt, and that's why the municipalities can't collect debt. They are trying to tap blood out of a stone.
Let's talk about, they've enlisted, services of an independent contractor to oversee the recovery of its coal fleet. What's your opinion on this? At least, maybe we can get some transparency here.
Yes, I mean, I think that's a good idea because it's independent. It's WSP has been appointed. They are a renowned engineering firm, international engineering firm, and I've got confidence that they are capable of doing the job. And I think it's also good that there's outside oversight on the matter. But yes, I mean, the bottom line is I still think that Eskom is not, and the government is not, treating this as an emergency. Even though Mr. Makwana this morning admitted that this is an emergency, electricity emergency, the fact of the matter is, if it was an emergency and everybody was on the same page, then we need to declare a state of emergency. And then a whole lot of options open up for Eskom, a whole lot of levers that they can't access without declaring a state of emergency. And also, I mean, the bottom line is, yes, they're talking about a 2-year sort of turnaround to sort out the load shedding. Bottom line is, if they declare a state of emergency, they can probably stop the load shedding within 90 days.
So, when we look at short-term solutions, do you think there are better solutions that they can look at?
Absolutely. If they import what I discussed with Eskom in 2019, if they import just that solution, which is importing emergency gas turbines, which are used in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they had that massive that massive fertilizer explosion. The power was restored within 7 days. Now, Eskom is a much bigger problem, so it won't be restored in 7 days, but certainly within 90 days, we can restore the shortfall in the capacity, create space for the units to be fixed up properly, and it doesn't have to be a 20-year car partnership type of deal. That space could be utilized for a period of 3 years. Yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but the bottom line is it's far cheaper than the cost to the economy of not having power. So I think Eskom's not exploring all the options.
Yeah, DeRay's also said, 9,200 megawatts of new private power projects are planned. Do you think this would be something that Eskom could benefit from, of course, in the short term?
Yes, it certainly would help, but it would only help for daytime power shortfalls because most of the stuff is renewable. And as you know, the renewable availability factor is 20% at best worldwide. So you're talking about relieving power shortfalls between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, basically, on average throughout the year. That doesn't address the morning shortfall, which is between 6 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock in the morning, and it certainly doesn't address the afternoon peaks from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the afternoon, because the sun don't shine so well in the afternoon, in the evening.
You know, there's still this huge problem of, like Eskom said, they still have troubles with vandalism. So this will probably also still be one of those factors that they will need to look at in order to get energy or power into the grid faster, and to also maintain those other power stations and to get some work done with those power stations so they can get energy to us faster. So vandalism is still a huge problem.
In fact, it's worse than vandalism. I now agree to call it sabotage. Previously, I was reluctant to call it sabotage, but I've now had feedback from my contractors and Eskom staff on the ground that it's out and out sabotage. And I've got good examples of what has been going on. For instance, at one of the power stations, I think it was Kendall, the gas generator, the gas filled generator, it's hydrogen filled, and that was what exploded at Medupi and caused massive damage. The bolts and nuts were hand tied. Those things are supposed to be stressed and torqued to 1,000 bars. So, and when my contractor got on site, this thing was, as I said, hand tied. So, and nobody would own up as to who undid the bolts, and that was an explosion waiting to happen. So, if that level of sabotage is ongoing, including rocks and bolts in the coal, yes, we're in a dire situation, and it's exacerbated by load shedding, especially on the transmission side, where cables and the transmission boxes are then vandalized during load shedding. The sooner we can do with load shedding and stop it, the better for everybody, because it will help our economy, and it will also stop the vandalizing and the sabotage of Eskom assets. So I think it's critical, and that's why I say I would have expected Eskom to treat this matter with far more urgency, and for the government to declare a state of electricity emergency.
Exactly what I wanted to get to just now, Ted, because you mentioned it earlier as well, the state of emergency for Eskom. But of course, you know, do you think that will alone get rid of all the red tape so that we can get energy faster and also get electricity on the grid faster? Do you think that is the best possible solution?
Absolutely. I have no doubt about it. I've been calling it for more than a year. And in fact, I mean, I foresaw this load shedding happening. And the bottom line is, yes, I'm not somebody who wants to take shortcuts and allow space for more corruption. But I think if enhanced Treasury due diligence takes place, now is the time to cut the red tape, declare a state of emergency. That gives Eskom access to many, many levers, including the emergency gas procurement program that I suggested. Those things typically don't work on open tender. You need to go to the people, negotiate the tariff, and let them bring the stuff over as soon as possible. And as I said, if the will was there, if the political will was there, we could end load shedding in this country within 90 days.
All right, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Mr. Ted Blom, energy expert, just talking to us about that Eskom briefing.